So with News Site 3, we're not actually going to be writing a whole lot of React and like a lot of rendering. We're essentially just grabbing data now via an API using the fetch and async await if you decide to choose, if you choose to use it. So when you clone down News Site 3, you're going to, again, have to use some files from your old News Site 2 and just use the files. Don't import the tests from your old news site because we use new test cases in this project. So I'm actually going to code our so this is News Site 3. I've already imported or copied and pasted over the stuff from News Site 2. But we'll notice we also have a couple more folders, a couple more directories. We have this API. In our source folder, we have this API, and then in the main directory, the root part, we have this API. You don't have to worry about this. This is literally just setting up a server in, I think, Express. It's an Express node server. So we're only doing it so for you guys to use APIs. We're not actually connecting to a backend. Then in here, we have our pages. Let's just boot this up. npm start. So here's our app that we should be pretty familiar with. Goes there, just testing everything. Got this back button. I think, did I do that? I might have done that just to make it easier. Back. Cool, it works. Great. So in here, we've just been grabbing data from a JSON file, which, as I said before, isn't how we're going to actually be doing that in the real world. Real applications don't just store their data. And this data doesn't change dynamically. So what we're going to do is use an API to grab our data. And we're going to use specific functions to go out and fetch our data. So these are three functions: fetch article by ID, fetch articles by section, fetch articles. But where is that data coming from? Well, this is where this API server, this is literally just to serve up already like created APIs for us. You don't really need to know, you don't have to touch any of this stuff. It's just already boilerplate for you. But if I wanted to actually go to an API, this is all in your lecture notes. I can go to localhost 3000 /API /articles. Nope, that doesn't work. Oh, so right here, we served up our React app on port 3000, but our APIs are 3001. You don't have to like worry about like how this goes and gets, why is it on port 3001? You just have to know that this API /articles or /articles /1, those are the API, our API endpoints to grab data from. And that's all being done in this API folder. You don't have to mess with this. What we have to mess with is going to this API and grabbing that data. So I'm going to kill the server. Clear. So in our source, we have just the basic components that of app newsroom, or what is it? News Site 2. We're not going to use this data anymore. But we also have this API directory where our APIs are going to live. We're going to use these functions to grab our data. This is where we're going to use our fetch and everything. So we also have these test cases as well. Let's look at our package.json. Let's run some tests. So if I do npm run, now I want to test this specific, this test case. I want to run these tests. I can actually run articles API. Oh, npm, it's just npm test. All right, what did it just do? Did it not run it? Son of a beast thing. So let's quit, and you might need to install some stuff before your npm test works. That's all in the README right here. We'll say something weird. I don't know, but yeah, it should be in there somewhere. Where did it say npm r? Right there.
That's R.
Oh my god, R. Right there, like that. Am I losing my mind? But yep. So it's running the tests. And we've got 3 failed in that articles API. So it looks like cannot read property then of undefined. Fetch articles by ID. Looks like it passes in 1. Okay. So I'm going to quit. I'm going to run server again. It's going there. And if our API endpoints are right here for articles, to grab all the articles. So this is what I need. This is the API. This is that URL. That's the HTTP request that you grab all the data from. Any questions? So I'm just going to store this URL. Let URL equals. So if I want to grab, using that fetch and then, in this article, fetch article by ID, and I want to return like something like that. So what should I type?
Fetch the URL.
Fetch URL.
Oh, forget the syntax.
So URL or what is going on? URL / colon. Okay. Article ID. Article ID. Let's run those tests again. So I've got 1 failed, test 3 failed. Here are the tests. It calls article API fetch by ID of 1. So fetch mock.get, I don't know what that is. Fetch mock, I guess, is a library that mocks that fetch get request. Takes in another, then it returns this stuff. That's fine. This is just a test. Okay. So fetch dot.
Is that returning?
Nope. So I can return. Now what? How does the fetch method work? What's next? Dot then. What do I get? I get the response.
Yeah. Set it to JSON.
Then I set it to JSON.
Or we just want the article ID, right?
Well, this is the article ID.
It's a whole
Oh, fetch article by ID.
Response.json. Note that. Now what? Dot then JSON. JSON. I don't like the. I mean, you're supposed to be as literal. I can't even say that word. As you can be with your variables and your parameters. So with this fetch, we're getting a response back. We're turning that response into a JSON. We're running this JSON method on it. Then what we're getting back is JSON. Then we're just returning it. Use JSON. I just like to use more data. Oh, what happened? Oh, look what happened? We passed our first test. So we have 2 failed, 1 passed. Awesome. Now we're doing fetch article by section. So let's look at our API. Looks like we have a section in each article has a section. So we can take in a section. And let's bring over the curriculum because there's, where to go? Here's site 3. So in the curriculum, it says we can get some articles can be filtered by any property through a request parameter called filter. So do you remember when we were grabbing data from the Ticketmaster, we can add other queries in there to like filter it more? That's what this is, where filter key equals filter value. So this is an example. So this is kind of has to go into our request URL. So we have a section. We return fetch just like above. And then we kind of do the same thing. We go to the URL. Did not paste. Oh, snap. Oh, whatever. Going to the URL. And now we have to grab that filter in the notes. So essentially like this. So we can grab by byline. Here's an example. So I'm just going to put this down there. So this has to go into this URL somewhere. How do I append items onto a URL? Can we do question mark? Anything after that is like a read separately. So we can essentially do literally just, oh, what the hell? So where, what is it, section?
Yeah, for this whole section.
So another, because it's a nested object, section equals, oh, the keyboard's dying. Section. So that's how like we're grabbing it by the section. Where'd it go? So in API requests, you know how you can do like, when we were doing our API requests to like Ticketmaster, we can do like .q equals, and then like have a query of some sort. Well, our API requests enables filters. We can use filters. Yeah. So the question mark essentially just denotes anything after that.
Would you
Will
take
be
out
red.
the space there since it's going to be
Where's the space? Oh,
Is where a keyword there, or is that a variable?
that's just how ours are. It's a keyword. So that's how we denote that where something equals something else, just in our API.
In our API.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily for everywhere. This is just an R API that we created on the server, on the Express server. That's just how we, because every API is different. Whether Google Maps, this API we're currently working in, Ticketmaster, Twilio, everyone's going to have their different parameters of how they do querying and filtering. And so ours is specific to like where, and then anything after this will be the result of, we can do byline, we can do section,
So
anything like that.
is the question mark a pretty common thing?
Yeah,
And then basically the differences would probably lie in how they set up their database then after that.
I want to say it's not necessarily how they set up the database, it's just how they grab this API, extrapolate the data from the API, and then they'll be able to put this into a method that grabs that data in the API. So this gets pushed to the back end somewhere, and then it extrapolates it. Oh, after the question mark, it has filter equals, oh, it's got a where. Okay, then we can like extrapolate that stuff, parses it out, and then makes a query in our database based on this specific parameters.
And that's where I was wondering if a large part of the difference would just end up being how they structure their data, like whether or not how their object would set up in the back end. I mean, like, so like, they did take a match of that.
Yeah,
object,
big
right?
nested
Yeah,
object.
it had like all those nested things. So that's what I was wondering if the majority of the differences between the ways that you would actually use the language to query would end up being structured.
No. So the back end people, the server side people, back end engineers will come up with a way to like what the best query would be for them to write it, and the front end people will talk with one another and be like, oh, okay, this is what I need to pass back. Now what am I supposed to do?
Is it missing a filter equals there?
Did it? Oh, yep. So dot where? Thank you. That. Then I do a dot then. I get the response back from the database. Response.json. And then data equals data.
Or data bigger?
Data equals. Look at that. We got two pass now. All right. We're getting somewhere. So now we're doing like test-driven development. The test's already written for us. We're doing this. So fetch articles. We also have filters. We're not going to get into that quite yet. What do we got? Return. Fetch. It's just the URL.
It's the URL.
Dot then response equals response dot JSON. Dot then data. Does that work? I'm failing anyone? We got 3 passes. And a lot of people will shorten the response to just res. All right. Runs, is it npm run start? think run start and start are kind of the same. I'm used to doing run. But. So we've got this. This works. Cool. But right now we're still using the built-in data. This stuff. Where is this being imported at? What components? This is app.js. So right here, get rid of that. News is not defined. Uh-oh. Where is it becoming? Where is it being used? News. Where else is it being used? Articles.
It's just to find.
Yeah, I can. Perhaps article page. Article. Got news in here as well. Cool. And then homepage. Oh. All right. But let's do. All right. So cool. Our app is broken now. So how do we grab that data then? So we've got that API endpoint. We have these article APIs that we created. We're export defaulting all of them. An object. So let's import them into our app.js. Is it the app.js that we're not using? Are we actually using it in here though? No, so we're not using it in here. So let's just delete that. I'm not using any React strap. Let's get the hell of that out of the way. So we're, where? Oh, okay. So in here,
We're not doing the random article. Yeah, you can actually trash.
can we get rid of this article? Where's the random article?
It's up at the top, where above your constructor, or below your constructor.
So we can get rid of this whole thing, right? Cool. So we're not even using it in here. So let's get rid of that. Import news. We're using it in here. So in here, let's grab articles. You want to grab all the articles for the homepage? Yes. Yes, we do. Okay. So we haven't gotten into this. We will in the next few days. Has anybody heard the term lifecycle methods used in React? So React comes with these built-in methods called lifecycle methods that fire off at certain points when the React is ran. So at different stages when React is rendering, when it's already rendered, or like right before it's rendering, or maybe some data has changed in the component, it might throw off one of these lifecycle methods. They're already built in, and then one of them is component. See, I just write component, like all these are all lifecycle methods. Component did catch, component did mount, component did update, component will mount, so it hasn't mounted yet. Component will receive props, component will unmount, and component will update. These are all lifecycle methods. And you can see in the, let's actually bring up React documentation of lifecycle methods. React lifecycle methods. I like that one. Where is it? There's actually like a pretty good, this life cycle diagram. Show common. So these are all the life cycle methods that fire. When the component is initially mounting, it runs the constructor, like the init function that we always have. And then it will run get derive state from props. Is that a new one? No. So when it's mounting, it'll run this first, and when it's updating, it'll run this first if it's called in your component. Then we also have should component update when it's the component is actually updating. We have the render method that's at the very bottom of it. That's render. Then it says pre-commit phase cannot read the DOM. So before it's actually visible on the DOM on the web page, this is all ran first. Then after it shows up, it can run component did mount, component did update, and these unmounted component will unmount. These are like the life cycle of the component mounting and unmounting and stuff like that. We're going to use component did mount for this one. So after it's already component did mount, let's see if simple. Let's just console log component did mount. Oh, it's not going to work, is it? Because everything's busted. I'm going to actually, just so, does it work? Yeah, all right, cool. So I just brought that old data back in. So right here, component did mount showed up. So it automatically rendered or fired off that lifecycle method. And in here is where we want to grab, make that API call. We want to execute, what was it, fetch articles, right? We want to grab all the articles. So I need to import those methods. How do I import these methods? Sure. Comment that out just so I can know. Can I import? I don't know if this is going to work. I want fetch articles from, so go up one, to pages. Oh, what did I just fuck something up? Sorry. Pages to API to articles API.js. And now let's return fetch articles. Failed to compile. I don't know if that's going to work. I think I can do articles API dot that. Articles API is not defined.
Do you need those curly braces around it when it's imported?
Maybe not. Oh, something happened, something different. Says object is not a function. Failed to compile. Let's say object is not a function. It's on expression. So let articles equals fetch articles and console log articles. Right, that's gonna break. So articles is a function, right? Fetch articles. Oh, hold on a second. Why is it all three?
Because it's what are you exporting from the?
So I think I know it. Default. So if I'm default,
So at the bottom, the default export is
Article API. All right, yeah, okay. I think I get it. So we have the three methods that I'm exporting. Now I can do dot fetch articles. Now can I invoke it? Promise dot pending. So this is what the promise is. Something's going on. It's not actually resolving. So I think something's wrong here. Return fetch, was it return? Nope. Let, on. Let articles. I do this. Why is that the case? It's not resolved. Oh, we got promise. So we have all of them. That's weird. So we have all of the data. Why is it pending? Don't worry about it. You can also do a dot catch. We're getting the data. It's in this weird, it's resolved. Let's see, articles. JSON maybe? I don't know why that would work. Nope. So we can see the data. Just return. I am stuck right now. Promise value. I think I had it before. I'm going to stop the video and do some debugging.